I don't do.
Hello, today I have Darren with me. Hiya, Darren. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Darren Walker. Yes, I'm Darren Walker. I'm getting on a bit, and in my spare time, I write novels. I've had 2 published, Closing Shop and The Sodom and Creation, and I have 10 and a half more waiting to be published. Just going proofreading 3 at the moment. So my intention is to have those published next year, and hopefully you'll all buy them and read them and give me 5-star reviews. And any film producers just tell them to make my films into movies. So if any of you know Steven Spielberg personally, just pass in my number.
Make your films into movies, yeah, not your books.
Yeah, of course. Make the films into movies, and then I could write the book about them. Hang on. Wrong there. This
Sorry.
is strong.
I couldn't resist, Darren. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Not even a little bit.
I can understand that.
Did you always know that you wanted to write?
Well, I started to write when I was in my late teens, and I tried to write a thriller, and it just didn't work, whether self-doubt was there or anything like that. And I'd write the first chapter, think it was crap, delete it, start again. And these were the days of typewriters, so again, that didn't make it an enjoyable experience, because obviously any mistakes and you just sort of start again kind of thing. And then I shelved it. I'd start again, come back a few months later, reread it, maybe do another chapter, leave it. And this went on for a while, and then I'd shelve it for a longer period of time, come back to it. And then I just got to about the 3rd chapter and thought, this isn't working. I shelved it. And then I went and got on with the rest of my life. And then many years later, I started writing for an American arts website, which was a very long story, which is a tale in itself. And I sort of write an article a week, and the guy who owned it was sort of in Mississippi, and he was this sort of real bear-like character who looked up with a white beard. He looked a bit like Colonel Sanders kind of guy, but he was a real Anglophile. So anything I could write about the difference between Britain and America, he loved, and often I would take the piss. And am I allowed to say piss? Sorry, yeah, I won't say piss again. Sorry. If I say piss again, tell me. And I ended up writing articles, and a lot of them would be comedy. So I'd be on about Monty Python or the Sex Pistols or songs that have got banned by the BBC. But other times I'd be writing about self-harm, the Finding Mike thing in London, where there's a guy who nearly jumped off a bridge, tried to find the guy who saved him, write about Rosa Parks from an English perspective, and all that kind of thing. And then eventually I got into writing poetry, and they were published sort of 2 or 3 times a week. But unfortunately, the website closed, and I was left with this muse on my shoulder going, "Are you going to write then? Go on, write." And so I thought, right, okay, I'll go back to the thriller. And it just wasn't, I still couldn't get into it. And a friend of mine who sort of used to read my articles, she said to me, "Well, your comedy articles were funny. Why don't you write a comedy?" Light bulb moment, and thinking, right, okay, right, what can I do about? I'm a big fan of Terry Pratchett, Douglas Adams, and Tom Sharp. So I thought, right, okay, I can do this. And I thought, right, Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett, they sort of created their own alternative world. So I thought, right, what would work for me? I thought, right, demons and angels. So I sort of, the first novel took about 18 months to write, and it sort of, I got writer's block in the middle of it. I was sort of always full of self-doubt, but eventually I finished it. I sort of created the settings of hell and heaven and tweaked it to my own strange imagination. And so while I was looking for a publisher, I wrote the 4 subsequent sequels to it in the series, and I was putting going back, I'd finish a book and I'd go back and put little Easter eggs in the previous books to sort of link to each one, so that sort of sequence, and you could read book one and it will actually have things in there that relate to book five and things like that. And then obviously I managed to find a publisher, came out, it did fairly well, got nominated, and I got through to the finals of a prestigious, get me teeth in, a big book award. Got through to the finals of that. I didn't win, but hey, at least it's nice to be recognised. My second book came out. Again, that made it through to the finals again, and but then COVID struck, and I sort of could have had another book published, but I like to get out there and sell the book in person, do book talks, do signings, get out and about, and I just don't want to sort of publish things and try and just sell it online and push it on Facebook and Twitter and all the other things. I like to get out there and do the literary festivals and all that kind of thing. So fingers crossed, next year I'll have 3 books out. One in the Hell and Heaven series, following on from the books that I've already had published, and they're called Dead Gods, and there we have one of the dead gods who comes back to life, called Ikeku, which is a South American god who actually did exist, was a god in there. And then I've got a standalone novel set in a fictional South American country called The Lords of Nowhere, which is a bit like an Ealing comedy, but with a bit more sex, drugs, and flatulence. And then I've got the third book I'm hoping to get out is called The Wrong Giant, which is set in medieval ancient times, full of strange monsters and creatures, giants, rock ogres, and my favorite, which are called gargoyles, and there's just ugly little squat creatures that always sort of talk like Mary Poppins with chim 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 chimney chim chimney chiroo chiroo. So there's strange Mary Poppins references in the book for some reason, and I'm just trying to proofread them all and hopefully have one book published every 4 months.
Out of all the books you've written, even the ones that you haven't published, what's been the most fun scene you've written?
Well, I think there's the one I enjoyed most is in one of the forthcoming books called The Lords of Nowhere, and it's about this obscure, tiny little country in South America, which, when Portugal and Spain were dividing the continent between them, the cartographers got to the end and the nib broke, and it's sort of this little ink blob was left, and because it was useless land, neither country wanted to go to war over it. So Spain said, "Oh, I don't want it," and Portugal said, "We don't want it." So some privateer in Elizabethan times saw that it was left unclaimed. So being English, he claimed it for the crown, and ever since then it became a sort of British property. And eventually the existing Governor General dies in a toilet incident, and the subsequent replacement, because no top brass civil servant wants to be ambassador or Governor General of such a small place, they end up giving it to a lowly civil servant who has absolutely no idea where the country is. And when he asks his boss, they've got no idea either. But he ends up there, and one of the local delicacies called ceviche, which is a made up thing that I've created. It's like a casserole, but it's they'll make it out of anything, and it's usually made out of rotted roadkill. And it's the first time anyone eats it, it has a certain explosive effect on their bowels. So the Governor General goes to a local restaurant and he doesn't realise about this. No one's told him about it. So they're just giving this plate of this food, and he starts eating it, and he has to go to the toilet. And I mean, obviously, it's my kind of subtle humour. And let's just say he regrets it, the incident, and as the smell escapes, so do the rest of the people in the restaurant.
But yeah, I can see you enjoying writing that.
What are you trying to say?
You're weird. I don't try and say anything. I will just tell you. I've already told you this at least 3 times.
3 times a week.
Today, that's just today.
That's brilliant.
I should have changed your name on the screen to Darren in capital letters with exclamation marks. I missed an opportunity there. So clearly, Tales on Trent isn't going to be your first author signing event. Will it be your first multi-genre?
No, I've done author events, similar author events, but problem is sometimes they're very hit and miss because it's such a mix of genres that you often get a lot of people who come for erotic fiction, or they'll come to meet a particular author. So sometimes you sort of feel obscure because you're the only comedy fantasy writer there, and maybe you'll get a few new readers, which is always good, but sometimes it's a case of you just sat there like Billy No Mates and sort of, come and talk to me, I'm strange, but I'm safe and strange kind of thing. But you can't get new readers unless you go out and find them. You can't just expect them to come knocking on your door. So I've got a few things planned, which I'm not going to tell anybody about because it gets Claire really curious about what I'm planning to do to get come to see me and talk to me. It's not just giving away sweets to little children. So but I do find them enjoyable because you meet lots of other authors and they're a really good bunch. I think the only time I've ever found one not to be so was an American who'd come over here and she was so egotistical. And said, "Oh yes, I'm the best author in this room," and she wasn't being ironic or sarcastic or joking. She really was full of her own ego and vanity, thinking, "Yeah, that's going to go down the storm with us Brits, isn't it? Yeah, right. Good luck with that, love." But I mean, I must admit, I was before COVID struck. I was due to do a couple of literature festivals as well, and because I've got my first book was seen by the Westboro Baptist Church in America, who were sort of basically very right-wing bigots, and they boycott American funerals and have these banners saying God hates everything, basically. They discovered my book and they hated my book, which was a real badge of honor. So I started doing a talk about different books that have been banned by different countries or different areas in America and things like that, and strange stuff like Alice in Wonderland, Winnie the Pooh, Dr. Seuss, all those sort of strange, totally harmless books, but people have sort of found reasons to ban them and hate them for whatever reason. Okay, yeah, you can understand Charles Darwin or 1984 in Soviet Union and things like that, but just stuff. And then because I've started writing comedy sketches for some American sort of website podcast thing. I was also starting developing a talk on writing for an American audience, but I never got that live because of damn COVID.
Yeah.
But this time,
are there any authors you're particularly looking forward to catching up with or meeting?
I'm just happy to meet them all. I mean, there's a certain one who gets dressed up in a costume, who's Mr. Loverman. We sort of, I won't name because I don't want him to give him any publicity. I mean,
the one that you call a soft southerner, yeah.
Yeah, a soft southerner. That's the one. Yeah. Shandy drinking soft southerner. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll know who you mean.
Hello there, you big puff. Yeah. Okay, that's.
Oh, we're gonna have to keep you two apart, aren't we?
We're good mates. We have a good laugh, and we take the mickey out of each other, and that's how authors should be. When we shouldn't attack each other. We should just support. We are all authors should support each other and back each other up. And even if it's not our particular genre, we still should support them and say, right, well done. Let's. If I can help you publicise your book, let's do it, and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, keep you apart because you're going to be trouble together. Each of you individually is enough trouble on your own, and getting you two together is just terrifying.
Well, I don't know what you're trying to say. I mean, the Friday
That
night.
you're trouble. I will spell it out.
Friday night the event will be fun, and the Saturday night as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the things you're promising to do with that poll, and I can't wait. I'm going to have my camera phone ready.
Well, some of the things we were talking about beforehand, I'm looking forward to seeing as well. So yeah.
Yes. And the things Claire's planning to do, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And on that note, I think we should leave it there. And we shall look forward to seeing what you do in the group, and we shall look forward even more to seeing you, and I will look forward to meeting you very much next May.
Of course. We've known each other quite a while, and we've never met. So it's about time.
Yes. It can't come quick enough.
And I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere.
Indeed, yeah.